So the WrestleMania 41 plans are really kind of up in the air, aren't they? There's the Elimination Chamber coming up, and we know that we got all of these big grand participants in there, from John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins is probably going to qualify and beating Finn Balor. We got Logan Paul, who's also made it in. Drew McIntyre is qualified, and there's a triple threat that's going to include Braun Strowman, Jacob Fatu, and Damian Priest. So before we get into all the main event conversation, I think that Damian Priest is likely to move on because I think you don't want Jacob Fatu, and a lot of people in the comments here have also pointed this out. You don't want Jacob Fatu getting into the chamber and then eating a loss. Now, if Jacob Fatu did get into the chamber, I could see him being taken out of the match by Solo Sikoa. He interferes, takes out, and they brawl, and they just end up exiting the chamber, and he's just qualified, I guess. So I don't see that happening. I see it more likely that Damian Priest gets there, give him a little bit more of a high-profile spot. The conversation, though, is also still around Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Apparently, according to the internet, WWE doesn't like the idea now of Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. And I hope they don't like it, because what do you think? For me, I don't really like the whole matchup. Like, it makes, there is sense there. There is storyline built in between Drew, Judgment Day, Damian Priest, the World Heavyweight Championship being cashed in on. All of that is there. However, when you have like 2 months until the big event and the big show, are you really going to be able to smash this storyline together? The pieces don't really seem to be there for Drew and Priest in my eyes. I would love it if Drew was just doing something. If it's not Damian Priest, there's the thing though, is like, hey, you're not going to do it with Damian Priest. What the heck's Drew McIntyre going to do? I could see him going in for the US title. Maybe he wants to mix it up with LA Knight some more and maybe do that as a one-on-one match potentially. But something else for Drew. I mean, I would love it if Drew was taking on like John Cena and he's gonna go after the title or something, or Cody. But I talked in a previous video about how like we could be all wrong about the Elimination Chamber, and what I mean is who could be the winner and why it could be John Cena, but there's some alternative options here. But right now, for what all the reports and rumblings online is, the main event of WrestleMania, whatever that like night 2 main event is, a lot of the conversation is around John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. Cena winning the Elimination Chamber, going off to have that one-on-one match against Cody Rhodes. Now, what do you think of just doing that as a straight up one-on-one? I do kind of like it. I don't know if Cena wins the Undisputed Championship there, but it'd be really cool if he did. Also, it would kind of, I think, change Cody's story a little bit, his character, give him a little bit more depth instead of just being this smiling white meat babyface that he's happy all the time that he's just the champion. You get to John Cena, and Cody's got something to prove, and he can go and have some really cool storylines post title reign. Also, I don't need Cody with the title forever. We had the Roman Reigns reign of 3-4 years, whatever it was. I don't need to see Cody with the belt for another 3 years because he is just the guy. The guy doesn't always have to have the belt. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the guy. He didn't hold the belt long. So they could shuffle it up a little bit. But if it's not going to be John Cena versus Cody straight up one-on-one at Mania for night 2, then they are talking about CM Punk. There's all the little whispers right now that CM Punk could be the third man brother going in with Cody and Cena, making that a triple threat. You might be saying, well, dummy, what about the whole Seth, Roman, and Punk thing and that being a triple threat? I have never been too keen on it. That triple threat idea, while great on paper, great as like a SummerSlam match, I've never really clicked with it. I think it's because it's a triple threat with those 3 high profile guys. Now, am I contradicting myself by saying, so wait, you want a triple threat of Punk and Cody and Cena? I don't know. There's just something about Roman Reigns versus Punk versus Seth where I'm like, I don't know if is that really gonna main event? Because that's the thing, is that those 3 guys probably should be in a main event of Mania, night 1 or night 2, but with no title on line. And maybe that is the thing for me, is that there's no belt involved. It's just grudge matching guys that hate each other. That's great, but Punk's whole thing specifically has been get to main event WrestleMania, and he's been toying with Cody a little bit and wanting to get that belt. I do think that there's a more compelling story with something like that. I also think that a straight up one-on-one match of Seth versus Roman Reigns might be a little bit more interesting right now, because we did Seth versus Punk. We had the blow off on Raw. I don't really see the point right now to rehash that storyline that they already played out. Now, the Punk versus Roman story is quite interesting as a one-on-one match because of the X Factor Paul Heyman. What is this favor that CM Punk was supposed to get? But also, if you did that match, what are you doing with Seth? Then Seth, I feel, is like in no man's land once again at Mania, where he's gonna just do an open challenge and he'll fight Penta, or he'll fight Aleister he'll fight Aleister Black returning at WrestleMania, and Seth loses to him like he lost to Cody, and he lost to Logan Paul, and he loses to everybody. So it's very interesting, at least. Like, there's so many different ways to go with the WrestleMania main events that we haven't even talked about the women's side of it, where it could be Charlotte and Tiffany. I don't know if that's really a main event, but it's Charlotte Flair. You have Rhea Ripley and whoever Rhea's going to end up challenging. And I know that Charlotte hasn't declared, but it kind of feels obvious that it's going to be Tiffany. You have so many high-profile main event stars on the men's side this year. That's a great problem to have. WWE's roster is loaded. It is stacked so much for the last like 2 years. And I feel like it's finally exploding where you got too many good possibilities and great options. And I love that personally, because you've had too many years in the past under Vince where the main events were so generic, so much just in your face. This is what it's going to be for months, and we're just waiting to get the match over with. I'm really just specifically talking Brock versus Roman over and over again. And I think it's kind of a problem if you had a lot of big stars just crammed into triple threats. Looking at Roman versus Seth for a second, that is a match I right now I would love to see, because they have so much time to build to it. And I think that is the story they are trying to tell. I know Punk has been involved in all of this, but Seth and Roman's history is huge, and they had the moments in the Royal Rumble together, and Seth is the one that took Roman out with a double stomp. The character dynamic is very interesting because Seth can play a little more heel, Roman could be very aggressive, you do have Paul Heyman in there, and their Royal Rumble match together ended in a disqualification. Like, Seth beat him. So you can call back to that. You can call back to the Shield. You can call back to all the chair shots, everything. It's a huge story baked in that I think if they can just pull the trigger on, it's smooth sailing to WrestleMania. Who wins in that thing? I don't know. Probably Roman Reigns, because Roman wins, and also Seth tends to lose. You could have The Rock show up at the end of that match, though. That would be quite the something thing to see, where you could have, that's a horrible sentence, but you could have Rock show up at the end of Seth versus Roman, well, after Roman maybe beats him, and then that just teases another match where The Rock may or may not show up ever. But see, Seth versus Roman, grudge match, blood feud, do it inside Hell in a Cell or something cool. You could have that as a big blow off and gives Roman a win back at WrestleMania after losing at 40. I love to see what the story would be for the next 60 days or so between those two guys. So then what about CM Punk? If you don't do this triple threat of Roman, Punk, and Seth, you then pivot CM Punk the other way. So this is where Elimination Chamber, in my eyes, gets pretty cool and pretty interesting, because there's a lot of factors involved. A lot of people start branching off and having their feuds and kind of laying it out of who's going to fight who. I think Logan Paul is going to play a significant role in this chamber and might even decide who his WrestleMania opponent could be. It could be Drew versus Logan Paul. It could be Damian Priest versus Logan Paul. But with the WrestleMania main event and the outcome of the chamber, whatever it will be, and by the way, it's in Toronto and I'm going. I'm very excited about that. I'm dragging my wife and we're going to sit there. She's going to have to experience it happening to her. But you could see there's some things that could happen that maybe not be so great. Like, Logan Paul could eliminate John Cena. Logan Paul has been the crafty one in the Royal Rumble and all that, right? They're gonna give him a high-profile spot at WrestleMania. There's been the rumblings in the past of doing Logan Paul versus John Cena. I don't want to see that match because I don't want to see John Cena's final WrestleMania match be against Logan Paul. Give me a title match. Give me a CM Punk versus John Cena one more time at Mania. Drew McIntyre versus John Cena. Give me Randy Orton versus John Cena. Like, there's the one-on-one against Cody. There's so many different things for John Cena's final ever WrestleMania. I don't want it to be against Logan Paul because I don't think it's anything significant and it doesn't help anybody. That's just my opinion. You could say it'll help Logan Paul get over if Paul beats Cena, but it's like, but Logan Paul isn't around that much. John Cena's gonna keep being around for several more months for the rest of the year. So I just don't see any benefit really, and the fans just kind of poo-pooing all over the thing, just going, yeah, this is whatever for John Cena. It's his final Mania. Let's do something really cool. I don't think that's it. Would you do like Logan Paul versus CM Punk? They had words in the middle of the ring. To me, no, that's not a Mania match for CM Punk. And he is pushing so hard, Punk is, for getting to the main event spot. And I also wonder about the favor of Paul Heyman and CM Punk and what that looks like. Some people have suggested that the way to do it to get CM Punk into the main event of WrestleMania, like let's assume John Cena wins the chamber, Cena is going to go on one-on-one against Cody Rhodes for the title. That means that Punk loses, he gets screwed by maybe Logan Paul. You could do a couple of things. You could have Punk then turn around disgruntled, like bewildered that he lost and that he's not going to WrestleMania and he has no direction. He then turns around to Paul Heyman on Raw, cashes in his favor, and says, "You're getting me into the title match with Cena and Cody Rhodes." The end of it. Like, that's what's happening. That's the favor that Paul Heyman cashes in, and he does that. Now, the other thing you could do is that if you're trying to get Punk into like a triple threat of Cody and Cena, I've heard other ideas too of what if Roman Reigns comes out at the Elimination Chamber. This thing is in Toronto and it's in our big stadium. It's where the Blue Jays play. Wearing a Blue Jays hat, go figure. But it's not in the standard arena. And I only say that and bring that up because being a stadium show, big event, big names. It's like Roman shows up for big moments, right? And he's been written off TV with Seth, and because of Punk. But Seth's the one who did the stomp. What if in the chamber, it's getting down to the final 4, and it's like Seth, Cena, Punk, and Logan Paul? Or it's Seth and Cena and Punk final 3. Roman's music hits, Roman comes out to the chamber with Paul Heyman. Punk is looking at Paul Heyman because he knows what this is, and this could be the favor. Paul Heyman directs Roman Reigns to get into the chamber, Superman punch, spear, and toss out Seth Rollins, spear to John Cena. Punk goes, hits GTSs on them, gets the win. CM Punk goes to WrestleMania to fight Cody Rhodes one-on-one. If you did that, you now have Seth going off to fight Roman because Seth is screwed out of his title opportunity directly because of Roman Reigns. So then you have lit that thing on fire. Roman, for his character, is very interesting. Same with Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman basically forced Roman Reigns to do something he didn't want to do, and do it for CM Punk. Going back to Survivor Series, where they sat down for the cinematic thing, and this was a favor of CM Punk to Paul Heyman to team with Roman Reigns. Now you are flipping it around, and he's cashing in that favor so that Roman Reigns has to do something for Paul Heyman, which could then set up Roman versus Punk for a title match at like SummerSlam. What do you do with Cena? Cena could, he said he's just getting in the chamber. He could just say, I'm getting into the main event of WrestleMania. Or Cena does get eliminated by like Logan Paul, and that sets up Logan Paul versus John Cena. I personally find it very interesting if there was the Roman Reigns interference spot, because of how much it would unravel all of these stories. And Punk versus Cody, that is a main event WrestleMania night 2. That's what that is worthy of for that moment, to have those two going at it. And the fans can be pretty split on things, because you have Punk, who found a way to get to the main event of WrestleMania with the help of Roman Reigns, who is Cody Rhodes' biggest opponent of all time. And you can kind of see there, right, where there's so many layers of Cody's story, animosity with Punk directly, but now also because of the help of Roman Reigns, if they did that. And likewise, Cody Rhodes has also tag teamed with Roman Reigns. They've both done it with each other. Then you get this really good, I think very solid story of Punk versus Cody at Mania. And it reminds me a little bit of Rock versus Austin Mania 17. If you remember the build to that and the epic promo, you got My Way and all this stuff, but the sit down promo between Austin and Rock, Austin's whole thing in that moment was, I need to beat you, Rock. I need it more than anything you could ever imagine. Like, that's ingrained in my brain. Austin wanted the title. That's what he wanted by any means necessary. What if you are going to get that moment between Punk and Cody? Or it is a triple threat and it's Punk, Cena, and Cody. But if you have a similar moment of Rock Austin to that of Cody and Punk now leaning more into not being a heel, because Triple H doesn't really do just full out normal heels and baby faces. Everyone's got their personalities, motivations, tweeners, like they all got their issues. Punk can have that kind of sit down with Cody Rhodes and being like, I need to beat you. I need to do this. I need to get that undisputed championship. I'm going to WrestleMania. I had to do what I have to do to get there. I cashed in my favor. I don't like Roman Reigns, but Paul Heyman's my guy, so I am doing this to get to that match with you. You could then even have, and we're forward thinking here, ladies and gentlemen, you could then even have it where Cody and Punk have a match at Mania. Maybe it is a triple threat with Cena, or it's the one-on-one, and Paul Heyman comes down to the ring, and it's very much like Mania 17 finish, where it's Austin and McMahon taking down The Rock, but now it's Punk and Heyman taking down Cody Rhodes. You'll get fan bases cheering and just being shock and awe, and you know what? You're putting a lot of heat on CM Punk, and he's doing anything he can to get that title. Desperation, that story, and going out of WrestleMania makes it super interesting. Cody then has a ton of motivation, and there's a million different ways they can do stories going out of that. And Paul Heyman plays both sides, and he's like, okay, the favor's done. He goes back with Roman Reigns. and does that. I personally like, when it comes to WrestleMania, I mean, it depends on the story being told. I usually like just one-on-one matches for main events, just because you could tell a very linear story, very clean. And when you get into triple threats and even fatal four ways like WrestleMania 2000, which was a mess, but I still kind of like it. A lot of moving parts, a lot of different promos you have to do, different angles. And if you have Punk, Cena, Cody at Mania, it's a lot. Like, I do think that a main event of Cody versus Cena is so clean, and it's a passing of the torch moment, and it can have that really big epic feel of a Hogan Rock kind of WrestleMania match. If you have it as a triple threat, I feel like you'll lose that a little bit. And then there's the rest of the card. Like, then there's the women's matches, and then there's just what is the mid-card matches doing? Like, there's so many different things. If you guys want to talk more about the WWE and what was going on there, click this video right here and help me out. Hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 50K subs by the time we get to WrestleMania. It's a lofty goal, but we're trying anyways. Have a great day. See ya.